Hello, and welcome. Settle in, and let us speak of the shadows that move between the greater darknesses. When we contemplate the nature of true evil, the cosmic, fundamental evil of the lower planes, our minds are almost always drawn to two immense, warring powers. We think first of the abyss. We picture the churning, infinite chaos. The screaming hordes of the Tanari, the demons. They are evil as entropy, evil as a wildfire, a force of nature that exists only to consume, to tear down, to unmake. They are the rage of the unthinking storm, the hunger of the beast, and they offer no negotiation, no quarter, and no reason. They are oblivion given form. And then, in opposition, we think of the 9 hells. We picture the rigid, suffocating order of battle, the disciplined, iron-shod legions of the Batedzu. The devils, they are evil as tyranny, evil as a contract written in blood and bound in flayed skin. They are the cold, meticulous cruelty of the predator that enjoys the dissection of its prey. They are the architects of damnation, the jailers of souls, and every action they take is a precise, calculated step toward a single goal, the total subjugation of all things. Until, in Niweo, this is the great conflict, the blood war, chaos versus law, the unmaking wave versus the iron wall. It is a war that stains the very fabric of the multiverse, a conflict so vast and so absolute that it seems to define all of existence. It is loud, it is bombastic, it is a shriek and a command. There is a third pillar, a third, quieter, and perhaps more insidious flavor of evil, one that thrives in the space between the inferno and the fortress. It is an evil that does not serve chaos, for it finds chaos wasteful and unprofitable. It is an evil that does not serve law, for it finds law restrictive and cumbersome. It is the evil of pure, unadulterated, and professional self-interest. Wow! This is the domain of the Yugoloths. To understand the Yugoloth, you must first cleanse your mind of the concepts of loyalty, faith, and conviction. These are, to the Yugoloth, liabilities. They are emotional burdens, systemic flaws that prevent a being from achieving true, efficient perfection. The demon fights for its rage. The devil fights for its philosophy. The Yugoloth fights for a paycheck. They are the ultimate mercenaries of the multiverse. They are the fiendish race that embodies neutral evil. And this neutrality is not born of apathy or a desire for balance. It is born of supreme, calculated avarice. The Yugoloth asks only one question, the question that serves as their creed, their prayer, and their entire philosophy. What's in it for me? Where a devil will offer you a deal to bind your soul to its master's cause, and a demon will simply try to devour your soul for the momentary pleasure of it. A Yugoloth will inspect your soul, appraise its value, and ask you what you are willing to trade for its services. Their loyalty is not sold. It is rented to the highest bidder. And it is this cold, transactional nature that makes them so uniquely terrifying. They are the third party in the blood war, the arms dealers and free agents who sell their formidable power to both sides, often simultaneously. A legion of Mesoloth, foot soldiers, may fight alongside a diabolical legion in one battle on Avernus. only to accept a better offer from a demon lord and turn on their former employers in the next battle. This is not seen as betrayal, not to them. It is simply good business. A contract is a tool, and if a better opportunity arises, the previous contract is rendered obsolete to a Yugoloth. Any employer foolish enough to turn their back on a hired blade, any client who believed a promise was rooted in honor rather than incentive, deserves the knife that slides between their ribs. The fault, in their eyes, lies with the victim for being so naive as to trust a being of pure, transactional malice. This philosophy permeates every aspect of their existence. They view the grand cosmic struggle of the blood war not as a crusade, but as a marketplace. It is a self-perpetuating economy of suffering, and they are its most successful entrepreneurs. They have no interest in one side actually winning. A victory for the hells of the abyss would mean an end to the war, and an end to the war would mean an end to the staggering profits they glean from it. So, their true purpose, their grand, overarching strategy, is to perpetuate the stalemate. They are the masters of the long game, ensuring that neither side gains a permanent advantage, carefully managing the flow of power to keep the conflict burning for eternity. They bleed both armies dry, taking their payment in souls, in magic, in secrets, and in power, all while remaining beholden to none. This mindset is alien. It is an evil stripped of all passion. A demon may torture you out of a desire to inflict pain. A devil may torture you to extract a secret or to break your will as part of a larger plan. A Yugoloth will torture you dispassionately. It is a tool, a method of extraction, a simple means to an end. They feel no rage. They feel no sadistic pleasure. They feel only the cold, sterile satisfaction of a job performed efficiently. In many sourcebooks, it's noted that even emotions like anger are viewed as contaminants, weaknesses that cloud the mind and lead to poor, unprofitable decisions. They wear masks of emotion, of course. They are masters of deception, able to feign camaraderie, loyalty, or even empathy, if it serves to manipulate a client or a foe. An Yugoloth, one of their jackal-headed scribes and mages, can present itself as a reasonable, eloquent, and even charming negotiator. It will flatter, it will commiserate, it will make you feel as though you are its confidant, its partner, but all the while its cold, ancient mind is simply running a cost-benefit analysis, viewing you as nothing more than a resource to be leveraged, and when your utility is exhausted, discarded. This is the essence of the Yugoloth. They are the fiends who have perfected evil by stripping it of all dogma. They do not seek to destroy the multiverse, for a destroyed multiverse has no customers. They do not seek to rule the multiverse. There's no customers. They do not seek to rule the multiverse. For ruling involves responsibility, and responsibility is a burden. They seek only to own the multiverse, to have their claws so deep in every throne, every army, and every soul, that all of existence pays them tribute. They are the proof that the most dangerous evil is not the one that screams in your face, nor the one that binds you in chains. It is the one that smiles, shakes your hand, and hands you an invoice for your own damnation. This is the fiend we will be exploring tonight. Their mysterious origins, their rigid and brutal society, the masters that pull their strings, and the singular artifacts that can, perhaps, control them. But to truly know them, we must first look back into the deepest and most shadowed corners of planet history, to a time before the devils and demons had their names. We must look to the grey waste, to the plane of apathy itself, and ask, what nightmares dreamed up the Yugoloths in the first place? To find the beginning of the Yugoloths, we cannot look to the roaring forges of the nine hells, nor the birthing pits of the abyss. The devils, after all, claim a history of pristine, divine origin, a fall from grace that was, in their telling, a righteous choice. The demons boil forth from the abyss itself, a cancerous, chaotic growth spawned from the very seed of evil. These are narratives of purpose, of rebellion, of primal force. The origin of the Yugoloth is a story, emptier, colder. It begins in a place where purpose goes to die. We must travel to the plane of Hades, known more commonly, and more accurately, as the Grey Waste. Imagine a world without color, not a world of black and white, for those are absolutes. Imagine instead a world of infinite, soul-crushing gray. The sky is a flat, oppressive sheet of ash. The ground is a gray, powdery dust that rises in silent plumes with every step. And this dust is not mere rock. It is the physical, granular remnant of forgotten souls, of apathy so profound it has crumbled to grit. The rivers that cross this land are not of water, but of sluggish grey despair. The wind does not howl. It sighs, a cold, mournful breath that leaches the color from your skin, the hope from your heart, and the memory from your mind. This is the plane of neutral evil, but it is also the plane of apathy. It is a cosmic drain, a place where ideals, passions, and identities are slowly and methodically eroded, worn down until nothing is left but a silent grey shade, which itself eventually dissolves into the endless dust. To stay here for even a day is to feel your brightest memories blur, your deepest loves grow pale and distant. To stay here for a week is to forget the sound of your own name. It is in this emptiness, this profound and eternal nothing, that the oldest and darkest legends place the origin of the Yugoloths. For the Grey Waste is not, and has never been, truly empty. It has inhabitants, ancient, terrible, and utterly alien. Long before the Blood War, before the Batazu and the Tannery had names, before the planes had settled into their current cosmology, there were others, the first fiends, beings of evil so primal they predate the very concepts of law and chaos. They are called the Yugoloths. The name is rarely spoken, and when it is in hushed, terrified whispers, even by other fiends, demon lords and archdevils, who command legions and shake the foundations of the planes, will not speak of them. They are a secret held so tightly that it has become a kind of void, a blank space in the history of evil. To look upon a Yugoloth is to understand why. They are a nightmare of mismatched anatomy. Imagine a gaunt, skeletal frame, impossibly tall and thin, with skin the color of a fresh, deep bruise, pulled taut over its bones. They are often described as having multiple spindly arms, ending in hands with too many joints and fingers, like surgical tools, sharp and precise. Their faces are the worst part, a distorted, elongated mockery of a mortal visage, sometimes possessing a single weeping eye, sometimes a collection of them, and a mouth that is a jagged, stitched shut orifice. They move with a horrifying disjointed grace, a puppet-like silence that is more terrifying than any roar. But their physical form, horrific as it is merely a vessel for their consciousness. A Yugoloth is a being of pure, ancient, and bored malevolence. They are the original neutral evil. They have existed for eons, perhaps since the first shadow was cast by the first light. They have seen everything. They have done everything. They have watched empires rise like sparks and die like embers. They have seen gods born and forgotten, and it has all led them to one unalterable conclusion. Nothing matters. This is not the nihilism of the demon, the desire to destroy. This is the profound soul-hollowing apathy of the truly ancient. They feel no rage, no joy, no ambition. They feel only a distant, clinical curiosity, the detached interest of a scientist vivisecting an insect. They are the masters of despair, the grand architects of suffering, not for any grand purpose, but simply because they are the fiends who, according to the darkest text, introduce the concept of perfected, methodical torture to the multiverse, not out of sadism, but as an art form, a way to pass the endless grey stretch of eternity. And it is this, their relationship with suffering, that is so key. They are whispered to be the true progenitors of all fiends. The Book of Vile Darkness itself hints at their ancient role. The legend states that in the dawn of time, the Yugoloths, in their infinite ennui, sought a new sensation, a new project. They saw the burgeoning cosmos dividing itself, separating into the crude, artless extremes of law and chaos. They saw good and evil beginning their clumsy, predictable dance. And they found it distasteful, unrefined. The Yugoloths, from their colorless throne on Hades, viewed these new passionate forces as flawed. Chaos was messy, inefficient, and self-destructive. Law was rigid, predictable, and, in its own way, just as limiting. Both were impure. Both were slaves to an ideal, a dogma. So, the Yugoloths, in their cold, dispassionate wisdom, decided to create something new, something better, an answer to this flawed dichotomy. They would sculpt a race of fiends who were free from the shackles of both conviction and impulse, a race of fiends who would embody pure, practical evil, an evil that served no master, no ideal, and no passion, but was instead a tool, a profession, a pure and perfect expression of self-interest. The legends are vague on the exact method. Some speak of the Yugoloths harvesting the very essence of the grey waste, the soul dust of 1 billion forgotten lives, and mingling it with the tears of a forgotten god of despair. Others speak of them taking the first primal larvae of the lower planes and twisting them, editing them, excising the flaws of loyalty and rage, leaving only pure cold avarice. One of the most prominent myths centers on a singular powerful Yugoloth known as Avarice. It is said, Avarice was the great experimenter, the artisan of the group. He is the one credited with taking this primal fiendish essence and meticulously crafting the first Yugoloths. And when they were done, they stepped back to admire their creation, the Yugoloths, the perfect fiends. They were beings who understood, innately, that everything was a transaction. They were born with a ledger in their souls. They looked upon the nascent multiverse not as a cause to be championed or a kingdom to be conquered, but as a vault to be plundered. They were the ultimate expression of the Yugoloths' own philosophy, that nothing matters except what you can take. The Yugoloths, their experiment complete, then did the most Yugoloth thing of all. They lost interest. They released their new creations upon the plains and simply went back to their silent contemplation, their artful agonies, their endless, grey existence. They became the reclusive godfathers of the fiendish world. They sought no credit. They sought no worship. They simply watched with the dim, detached curiosity of a creator observing an ant farm. This legend, of course, is one the Yugoloths themselves both embrace and deny, depending on which one you ask and what they stand to gain from the telling. To be the direct creation of the first and most ancient fiends. This gives them a primacy, a claim of being the original and purest form of evil, a status they delight in lording over the devils and demons. It reinforces their entire philosophy, framing them as the intended and perfected fiendish race, while their warring cousins are mere crude, flawed copies. But this origin also frightens them, because it implies that their masters, their creators, are still out there, watching, and that these ancient, apathetic beings, who could create them with a passing thought, could just as easily unmake them, should they ever become boring. The Yugoloths are the shadow at the heart of the Yugoloth identity, the parents they can neither confirm nor deny, the creators whose motives are so alien as to be unknowable. They are the ultimate higher power in a race that despises all authority. And so, this is the first, and perhaps the deepest of their creation stories, that they are not a natural force, nor a fallen one. They are a product, a bespoke, artisanally crafted race of fiends, designed by the oldest evil of all, to be the perfect, dispassionate tool, an army of pure pragmatism, let loose upon the cosmos to demonstrate the true, quiet, and efficient power of neutrality. But this is only one story. Other powers lay claim to their creation. Other, newer myths have taken root, myths that tie their birth not to the ancient, forgotten past, but to the great political struggles of the plains. One of these stories begins not in the cold grey dust of Hades, but in the sulphurous volcanic fires of Gehenna, and with a coven of the multiverse's most infamous soul traders. The story of the Yugoloths is a story of cold, ancient, and profound emptiness. It is a myth born of dust and apathy, a tale of creation by creators who felt nothing. It is perhaps, the deepest and most chilling of the Yugoloth origin myths. But it is not the only one. Other tales, newer, and perhaps more politically convenient, paint a very different picture. These stories are not of cold, but of fire. They are not tales of apathy, but of ambition, of backroom deals, and of a war that demanded a new, more subtle weapon. To find the source of these legends, we must leave the infinite, colorless expanse of the grey waste and travel to its neighbor, the furnace plain of Gehenna. Imagine a single, impossibly vast mountain, or rather, a series of 4 volcanic slopes, each rising at an impossible, agonizing angle into a sky of sulphurous, black smoke. This is Gehenna. There is no level ground here. To exist on Gehenna is to be in a constant, desperate struggle not to fall. The volcanoes weep rivers of magma, and the air is a toxic purple haze that blisters the lungs. The entire plane is a monument to spiteful, grasping greed, a place where gravity itself seems to want to pull you down into the fire. It is here, on these treacherous slopes, that the Yugoloths maintain their greatest strongholds, and it is here that a very different origin story is told. This story begins not with ancient, bored primordials, but with the greatest and most meticulous mind in all the 9 hells, Asmodeus, the Lord of Nessus, the Overlord of Battle. In this telling, the blood war had already been raging for uncounted millennia. The infernal legions of the Batazu, disciplined and numberless, clashed with the chaotic hordes of the Tanari. It was a war of absolutes, and it was a stalemate. Asmodeus, the ultimate strategist, recognized a fundamental flaw in his own forces. His devils were, by their very nature, lawful. They were bound by a rigid, unbreakable hierarchy. Every order was followed. Every strategy was precise. But this was also a weakness. The devils were predictable. Their actions, while effective, were transparent to their chaotic foes. More importantly, there were certain operations that were beneath, or rather, outside the purview of his infernal code. Assassination of a rival demon lord that might create a power vacuum. A false flag operation to trick 2 demon lords into fighting each other. The quiet acquisition of a mortal kingdom that could not be achieved through overt conquest or contract. These were messy, chaotic, and unlawful acts. If one of his own dukes were caught, it would be a breach of the infernal order, a sign of weakness. It would implicate the entire 9 hells. Asmodeus needed a third option. He needed an army of fiends that could operate with plausible deniability. He needed fiends who were not bound by law, but who were also not slaves to chaos. He needed intelligent, capable, and powerful agents whose motives were so clear, so transparently selfish, that their actions could never be traced back to his own far-reaching plans. He needed a fiend who would work for coin, not for cause. And so, the Lord of the 9 hells turned to the only beings in the multiverse as pragmatic, as ancient, and as unscrupulously mercantile as his vision required. He turned to the night hags. The night hags are not mere cackling crones. They are fiends in their own right, ancient as the lower planes themselves. They are the grandmothers of dark bargains, the soul traders who prowl the ethereal plane, harvesting the spirits of the wicked. They are neutral evil, just like the plane of Hades they sometimes haunt, and their only loyalty is to their own twisted sisterhoods and their own burgeoning treasuries of soul-filled gems. They are the perfect untrustworthy partners for a project of pure, untrustworthy creation. The legend states that Asmodeus, in a pact so secret it was whispered to have been signed on the flayed soul of a forgotten god, commissioned a grand coven of the most powerful night hags. The task was simple in its description, and monumental in its scope: create a new race of fiends. The hags, cackling at the audacity of the project and the sheer staggering price they could name, agreed. They chose Gehenna as their forge, its spiteful fires and toxic air the perfect crucible for their new evil. And so the work began. In bubbling, volcanic cauldrons, the hags began their dark alchemy. The exact ingredients are a matter of terrifying speculation. Some say they took the primal soul larvae that crawl the banks of the river Styx, the raw, mindless spiritual essence of the damned, and began to twist them, They steeped them in the waters of the Styx itself, baking in a forgetfulness of all prior loyalty. They folded in the essence of Gehenna's spite, the physical manifestation of the plane's grasping greed. They added, perhaps, the blood of the Yugoloths, a nod to the older myths, to give their creations a core of ancient, apathetic evil. They whispered to them of commerce. They taught their burgeoning spirits the mathematics of betrayal. They sculpted them, not in the image of a god, but in the image of a contract. And, from these bubbling horrific cauldrons, the first Yugoloths emerged. They were, by all accounts, a resounding success. They were strong, cunning, and magically adept. The Yugoloths, their insectile foot soldiers, were born with tridents in their hands and a price on their services. The Yugoloths, their winged, gargoyle-like infiltrators, were born with an innate understanding of ambush and terror. And the Arcanaloths, the jackal-headed scribes, were born with a mastery of magic and the innate silver-tongued cunning of a master negotiator. They were exactly what Asmodeus wanted, an army of pure, transactional agents, bound by no law and beholden to no chaos. Their only motive was profit. They would do anything for the right price. But Asmodeus was not the only master of the long game. The night hags were not fools. They knew exactly what they had created, and they knew that such beings, defined by their treachery, could not be controlled by mere promises. They required a leash, a chain. And so, as they created each and every Yugoloth, from the lowliest Scaroloth to the most powerful Ultraloth, the hags performed one final binding act of magic. They inscribed the true name of each fiend into a series of magical ledgers. These tomes, crafted from the skin of nightmares and penned in the ink of the river Styx, would come to be known as the Book of Keeping. These books were the hag's control mechanism. To know a fiend's true name is to have absolute, inescapable power over it. You can summon it, bind it, command it, and even destroy it. With these books, the night hags were the true masters of the Yugoloth race. They could lease out their new fiendish army to Asmodeus, to the demon lords, or to anyone else, all while holding the ultimate failsafe. The plan was perfect, for a time. But the hags had made their creations too well. They had imbued them with their own perfect, neutral evil nature, and that nature includes treachery, infighting, and greed. The hags, in their own squabbles, in their own schemes against one another, grew careless. The Book of Keeping, or rather, the books, for there were many, were separated. Some were stolen, some were lost, some were rumored to have been bartered away in foolish deals. This event, the scattering of the books, is celebrated by the Yugoloths as their liberation. It was the moment they slipped their leash, the moment they became true free agents. No longer the slaves of the hags or the puppets of Asmodeus. They were free to sell their services to all. And they did. This origin story is a powerful one. It neatly explains the Yugoloths' deep connection to Gehenna. It explains their transactional nature. It explains their innate, paranoid, and visceral fear of their own true names. And it establishes their eternal hateful relationship with the night hags, their former masters. But it also paints them as tools, as a manufactured race, as slaves who merely escaped their bondage, and for a race as arrogant, as proud, and as convinced of its own superiority as the Yugoloths. This is an uncomfortable narrative. This is an age. And so, they have another. A story they tell themselves. A myth of power, of self-creation, and of destiny. A story that centers not on a coven of hags, but on their own singular, godlike figure, the General of Gehenna. This legend is found within the Yugoloths' own sacred text, the Book of Derelict Magics, and, like everything else about them, it is a masterpiece of self-serving propaganda. According to this tale, the Yugoloths are the first fiends, the primal evil, older than both Batetsu and Tanari. But in their nascent state they were impure, they were tainted by the crude, simplistic ideologies of law and chaos that were beginning to bleed into the multiverse. But one among them, the first and greatest Ultraloth, a being of perfect, cold, and logical evil, saw this taint for what it was, a weakness, a flaw in their design. This being, who would one day be known only as the General of Gehenna, sought a way to purify his race, to elevate them to their true, perfect potential. He journeyed to the heart of a dying, forgotten plane, and there he forged a mighty artifact, the Heart of Darkness. This was not a physical organ, but a massive light-devouring gemstone, a nexus of pure concentrated, negative energy, and perfect apathy. The General brought this Heart of Darkness to the volcanic peaks of Gehenna, and there he called his race to him. He activated the artifact, and its pulse of pure, cold logic washed over the Yugoloth race. This power, this purification, burned away the dross of their souls. It purged them of all loyalty to law. It scoured them of all impulse toward chaos. It left only the pure, cold chaos. It left beautiful logic of the self. They were perfected. This myth, of course, also neatly explains the existence of their rivals. In this telling, not all of the proto-fiends were wise enough to accept the General's gift. Those who clung to the rigid, foolish taint of law, those who feared the freedom of true neutrality, fled this purification. They ran to the plane of battle, and there, in their self-imposed exile, they devolved. They became weaker, bound by their own chains, and came to be known as the Batetsu, the devils, and those who clung to the mindless, raging taint of chaos, those who lacked the intellect for true, cold calculation. They, too, fled. They tumbled into the abyss, and there they devolved, becoming the snarling, mindless beasts known as the Tanari, the Daemons. This story is the ultimate expression of Yugoloth arrogance. It positions them as the original, pure fiendish stock. It frames the devils and demons as their degenerate, weaker, and flawed cousins, and most importantly, it establishes their greatest living legend, the General of Gehenna, as their creator and their savior. It makes him a god, the only god a Yugoloth would ever deign to respect, one of their own, who promised them nothing but their own, perfect, selfish freedom. So, which story is true? Are they the manufactured tools of a hellish lord and his hag contractors, forever bound by a name, in a lost ledger? Are they the self-perfected, pure fiends, the the true and original evil of the multiverse? Or are they the ancient, bored experiment of the Yugoloths, an art project of despair given life? The Yugoloths, in their infinite cunning, will never give a straight answer. The truth is a commodity like anything else, and its value is highest when it is most ambiguous. The ability to be any of these things, to be all of them and none of them, is just another mask for them to wear. It is another layer of deception. But while their origin is a lie wrapped in an enigma, the threat introduced in the hag myth is shatteringly real. The Book of Keeping exists, and it is this, a simple ledger of names, that hangs over the entire Yugoloth race like a headsman's axe. It is the one great fear at the heart of their perfect, fearless evil. Let us speak now of the one great fear, the one singular truth that curdles the cold, transactional heart of every Yugoloth. A Yugoloth fears very little. It does not fear pain, for pain is a tool and a sensation. It does not fear death, for death on the material plane is merely an inconvenient setback, a jarring recall to the fires of Gehenna. It does not fear devils or demons, for they are customers, crude and predictable. But there is a vulnerability, an original sin, baked into their very essence by their alleged creators. A Yugoloth, like all fiends, has a true name. This is not the name they use in their dealings, not the title they earn, like the Yugoloth, or a handle they adopt, like Shemeska. Those are mere labels, as disposable as a worn cloak. A true name is something far, far deeper. It is their essential definition. It is the precise, acoustic and magical formula that describes their being, the unique signature of their soul. It is the name they were given at the moment of their creation, whispered into their new consciousness by the cackling night hags as they crawled from the cauldron. And to know that name is to have absolute, inescapable, and total mastery over them. If you possess a Yugoloth's true name, you do not negotiate with it. You do not hire it, you command it. You can speak its name and drag it instantly and without recourse from anywhere in the multiverse to your feet. It cannot resist the summons. It cannot bargain for a price. It must come. You can bind it to your service. You can give it orders, and it must obey, even if those orders are suicidal, unprofitable, or directly counter to its every instinct. It cannot betray you. It cannot find a loophole. The magic of a true name bypasses the Yugoloth's very nature. It overrides their avarice, their treachery, and their entire philosophy of self-interest. It turns the multiverse's most cunning, free agent into a puppet, a slave. This is, to a Yugoloth, a fate infinitely worse than death. It is the ultimate humiliation. It is the negation of their entire identity. And the night hags, in their terrible grandmotherly wisdom, did not simply whisper these names and forget them. They recorded them. They created a failsafe, a ledger of their property, an invoice for their new race. This is the Book of Keeping. Or rather, as the most terrified Yugoloth scribes will whisper, the Books of Keeping, for it was not one singular tidy volume. The hags were not so foolish. The Yugoloth race is vast, and their creation was a grand, protracted project, The names are said to be recorded across multiple volumes, a scattered and nightmarish collection of ledgers. What do they look like? The legends are grim. They are not books of paper and ink. They are said to be bound in the flayed, cured skin of something else, perhaps the hag's own failed earlier experiments. The pages are described as a thin, brittle parchment made from the compressed and dried tears of forgotten gods. And the ink is the most terrible part. It is a shifting, living substance, a blend of the memory-wiping waters of the river Styx and the soured, spiritual residue of a billion broken bargains. To open such a book is to hear it. A faint, terrible chorus of whispers, the sound of every name bound within its pages, all crying out in their eternal magical prison. The names themselves are said to twist on the page, as if in agony, fighting against their confinement. These books were the hag's leash, their ultimate guarantee. They could lease out entire armies of Yugoloths and mercenaries to the devils. And when the bill came due, if the devils refused to pay, the hags could simply recall their army. Or, more cunningly, they could find the true name of the commanding devil, for it is rumored the hags' dark knowledge was not limited only to their own creations. But, as we discussed, the hags are creatures of infighting and greed. They are a fractured and jealous sisterhood. In their endless squabbles, in their own petty wars over soul gems and planet territories, they lost their grip. The books of keeping were scattered. This was the Yugoloths' day of liberation. But it was also the dawn of their one great eternal paranoia. Because the books were not destroyed, they are still out there. Imagine this. You are a Yugoloth. You are an Arcanoloth, a master of magic, a broker of secrets worth more than kingdoms. You sit in your stronghold in Gehenna, a fortress of obsidian built on a 70-degree slope over a river of magma. You are the master of all you survey. You command lesser fiends. You manipulate demon lords. You are the very picture of power and control. And yet, you cannot sleep. You cannot truly rest, because you know that somewhere, in a dusty library on a forgotten prime material world, or in a vault in the city of brass, or perhaps on the bookshelf of a rival, there is a book, and in that book, written in screaming, shifting ink, is a single line of text that can end you. You know that at any moment, a mortal wizard, a planet traveler, an archdevil, or even another Yugoloth might find that book, turn to a specific page, and speak your name. And in that instant, your fortress, your wealth, your schemes, your very will, would be gone. You would be yanked across the cosmos like a fish on a hook, to grovel at the feet of something that owns you. This is the paranoia that defines the Yugoloth race. It is the one incurable sickness in their perfect, cold-blooded souls. This paranoia fuels their actions in 1,000 subtle ways. It is the true reason they hate the night hags with such a profound, burning and emotional venom. It is the one instance where their cold, transactional nature fails. They will, in many cases, kill a night hag on sight, forgoing all profit, simply out of this deep, instinctual, and terrified hatred of their former jailers. This paranoia also creates a shadow economy. While Yugoloths are publicly mercenaries, They are privately the multiverse's most desperate archaeologists. They are all, in their own way, searching for the books of keeping. An Yugoloth will trade a vital blood war secret, not for 1,000,000 souls, but for a rumor of the location of one of its pages. An Yugoloth assassin will slaughter an entire monastery of Plana scholars, not for their gold, but to secure one fragment of a text that might be a copy of a page. And what would they do if they found one? This is the dark, treacherous heart of the matter. The noble or sensible Yugoloth would, perhaps, find its own name, and using a ritual of terrible power, erase it from the page, freeing itself forever. But the truly Yugoloth solution is far darker, and at bay. Why free one, when you can enslave 1,000? A Yugoloth that finds a book of keeping does not see a key to its own freedom. It sees the ultimate weapon. It sees a ledger of slaves. It sees a pre-made army of its own rivals, its own superiors, its own subordinates, all now bound utterly and completely to its will. This is the great secret war within the Yugoloth race, the endless, silent, and desperate hunt for these scattered books. It is a hunt not to destroy their chains, but to seize control of them. A Yugoloth sergeant who finds a book containing the name of its Ultraloth commander instantly becomes the master of that commander. The entire brutal hierarchy of their society is rendered meaningless by these books. They are the great, terrifying equalizer. Where are they? No one knows for sure. That is the horror of it. Mordenkainen, the great archmage, was said to have possessed one, or at least a significant portion of one. It is from his own tome of foes that much of this mortal understanding comes. Perhaps he still has it. Perhaps it is hidden in his sanctum. Grasts, the Dark Prince, a demon lord renowned for his cunning and his vast network of spies, is rumored to have acquired a volume, one he uses to bind a personal bodyguard of Yugoloth assassins to his will. It is whispered that the Yugoloth, the lord of the Wasting Tower, must possess a copy, for how else could he command the loyalty of his Yugoloth subjects? How else could a being of pure self-interest rule a race of pure self-interest, unless by a power beyond negotiation? But the most terrifying possibility, the one that truly keeps the Yugoloths awake in their towers, is that the books are simply lost, that they lie in mundane, forgotten places, waiting for any mortal to stumble upon them, to read a name aloud out of simple curiosity, and in so doing, gain mastery over a being of cosmic, fiendish power. There is, as with all Yugoloth legends, one grand and terrible exception, one being who is free from this paranoia, one fiend who lives without this fear. The General of Gehenna, Ki. In the Night Hag creation myth, there is a footnote. The hags, in their supreme arrogance, sought to create a master for their new race, a perfect general, an ultraloth of supreme power and cunning, but they made him too well. He was self-aware from the first moment of his creation, and in that moment, he willed himself free. In the Book of Derelict Magics, in the Yugoloth's own telling, the general is the one who purified the race. He is the creator, not the created. In both myths, and in all others, The conclusion is the same. The general of Gehenna's true name was never recorded. It is not in any book of keeping. He is the only Yugoloth in all of existence who is, and has always been, truly and completely free. This is why he is a god to them. He is not just a powerful ultraloth. He is the ideal. He is the one being who has achieved the Yugoloth's ultimate, impossible dream. To be beholden to no one, to be unchained, and to be truly, perfectly, master of his own fate. Edatayades. For all others, for every other Yugoloth, from the crawling Scaroloth to the faceless Ultraloth, there is the book, the name, the chain, and the cold, unending, gnawing fear of the Master's call. We have spoken of the Yugoloth's philosophy, their cold and empty avarice. We have whispered of their enigmatic origins, of the ancient Baronoloths, the cackling hags, and their own self-aggrandizing general. We have uncovered their one, great, and secret fear, the Book of Cowing. Now, let us observe them in their element, their natural habitat, for a Yugoloth is not a creature of quiet contemplation. It is a creature of action, so long as that action is profitable. And in all the multiverse, there is no greater, no more enduring, and no more lucrative enterprise than the blood war. To understand the Yugoloth, you must understand the war that feeds them. It is a conflict on a scale that mortals can scarcely comprehend. It is not a war of nations, or even of worlds. It is a war of ideologies, fought by entire realities. On one side, the infinite churning chaotic abyss, spewing forth the numberless hordes of the Tanari. On the other, the nine-layered, perfectly ordered fortress of Betor, fielding the disciplined, infernal legions of the Batazu. Andel, Sehotinglaue, Chaos versus law, anarchy versus tyranny. It is a war that has raged since the dawn of time, a war fought across the blasted landscapes of Avernus, the first layer of hell, on the toxic plains of the abyss, and across any unfortunate prime material world that finds itself caught in the middle. It is a war of extermination. Both sides seek the complete and total annihilation of the other. If the demons win, all of existence will dissolve into a screaming chaotic soup. If the devils win, all of existence will become a single, perfect, and eternally joyless prison. It is a war that has been in a perfect grinding stalemate for millennia. And the Yugoloths are the reason why. Ishani, Antenordil, Anatitu. They are the fulcrum on which this entire cosmos-spanning conflict pivots. They are the grand profiteers of the stalemate. The Yugoloths, in their perfect, neutral evil wisdom, looked upon this war and saw not a crusade to be joined, but a market to be exploited. They are the ultimate arms dealers, the indispensable mercenaries, the freelance strategists and assassins. They are the only power in the multiverse that trades, openly and professionally, with both sides. Imagine a battlefield on Avernus, a diabolical legion, all gleaming black armor and burning eyes stands in a perfect, unbreachable phalanx. Across the plain, a seething ocean of demons, snarling, bestial, and disorganized, charges toward them. The battle is joined. It is a clash of absolutes. And standing in the vanguard of that diabolical legion is a company of Yugoloth fiends, their insectile carapaces gleaming, their tridents held at the ready. They are fighting for the devils. They are fighting for law. Now, imagine a different battlefield, perhaps on the plain of Yggdrasil, a vital planar crossroads. A great Balor, a general of the abyss, plots the ambush of an infernal duke. It needs an elite, airborne strike force to break the devil's command structure. And so, it barters 600 mortal souls, freshly harvested, to a Yugoloth commander. And that winged, gargantuan fiend, that Yugoloth, leads its squadron in a devastating aerial assault against the devils. To the Yugoloth, there is no contradiction here. In the morning they fought for a paycheck from Asmodeus. In the evening, they fought for a larger paycheck from Demogorgon. This is not hypocrisy. It is not betrayal. It is simply business, a good quarter. This raises the great, obvious question. Why? Why do the devils and demons, these beings of supreme intellect and cosmic power, tolerate this? Why do they continue to hire fiends they know are treacherous? Why does an Archduke of Hell, the very embodiment of contracts and consequences, sign a deal with the fiend he knows will break it? The answer is a beautiful, terrible paradox, a strategic stalemate, from which neither side can escape. They hire the Yugoloths because they must. The Yugoloths are good at what they do. They are not just mindless brutes, they're lesser fiends. The Mercenaries and Yugoloths are tough, disciplined, and effective shock troops. They're greater fiends. The Yugoloths and Arcanalos are superb commanders, infiltrators, and mages. They are a potent professional military force. Now put yourself in the mind of an infernal general. You are preparing for a critical offensive. You are, perhaps, 5,000 troops short of what you need to guarantee victory. You know the Yugoloths are untrustworthy. You know that the Arcanaloth negotiator smiling at you from across the table is a duplicitous, soulless monster. But you also know two other things. First, you know that if you don't hire those 5,000 Yugoloth mercenaries, your demonic rival on the other side of the battlefield will, and he will use them against you by refusing to deal with them. By refusing to deal with them, you have not only weakened your own position, you have directly strengthened your enemies. Second, and this is the true genius of the Yugoloth position, you know that the Yugoloth's treachery is, in its own way, predictable. You know they will betray you. It's not a risk, it's a certainty. The only question is when. They will betray you the instant your enemy makes them a better offer. So, the entire negotiation becomes a simple, brutal calculation of resources. You do not try to buy their loyalty. Such a thing does not exist. You are simply engaging in a bidding war against your abyssal foe. You must pay them so much, so many souls, so much magical power, so many ancient secrets, that your enemy simply cannot or will not top your offer before the battle is concluded. You are not paying for loyalty. You are paying to outbid your rival for the duration of a single specific contract. The Yugoloths are masters of this game. They will often approach both sides of a coming battle simultaneously. An Arcanaloth scribe will teleport to the command tent of the Devil General, and at the very same moment, another Arcanaloth will be in the slimy, chaotic court of the Demon Lord, and they will openly play them against each other. The Archduke Zariel, the Arcanaloth, will say to the Balor, with a polite, jackal-toothed smile, has offered us the souls of the entire city of Elturel for this battle. A handsome price, but she is so very dull, so lawful. We would much prefer to work with a being of your vision. Can you, perhaps, make us a more compelling offer? Say, the souls of Elturel and the city of Baldur's Gate? They ratchet up the price, bleeding both sides dry before a single drop of fiendish blood has been spilled. This is their grand strategy. The Yugoloths have no interest in winning the blood war. A victory for either side would be a catastrophe for them. It would mean the end of their single greatest source of income. It would mean their two best customers have gone out of business. Nile, Ichi, Assaulted Chigor Salem, Alapan Chu. Their true overarching goal is to perpetuate the stalemate forever. They are the great cosmic regulators, the invisible hand of the fiendish market. If the devils are winning, if their legions are pushing too far into the abyss, the price of Yugoloth services for the devils suddenly skyrockets. It becomes prohibitively expensive for them to hire mercenaries. At the same time, the Yugoloths will quietly approach the demons and offer them a bargain rate, a desperation discount, to help them push the infernal legions back. And when the tide turns, when the demons are raging too close to the river Styx, the equation flips. Suddenly, the abyss can't afford their prices, and the hells get a loyal customer bonus. They perform this balancing act on a micro and a macro scale. They will sell 1,000 Nezaloth troops to an army. At the same time, they will sell the army's battle plans through an Arcanaloth spy to their enemy. Then they will sell a Nikoloth assassination team to a third party to take out the commanders of both of the first two armies, thus ensuring the battle is a bloody, inconclusive quagmire, and that everyone will need to rehire them for the next engagement. Now, they are not just soldiers, they are spies, assassins, saboteurs, arms dealers, and most horrifyingly, bioweapons manufacturers. The Oinoloth, their dreaded lord, cultivates plagues. When a devil legion proves too strong, too unbreakable, a Yugoloth agent might accidentally unleash a soul-rotting plague in their barracks. A plague they, themselves, designed and sold to a demon lord a century prior. In this, they are the very embodiment of their home plane, Gehenna. They are the grasping, greedy evil that clings to the volcano's slope. They are the fiends who have turned the eternal cosmic struggle between ultimate good and ultimate evil, and between ultimate law and ultimate chaos, into a simple, brutal, and endlessly profitable business. And as the blood war rages, as souls are harvested by the billions, as planes are destroyed, the Yugoloths sit in their obsidian towers and count their coin. But this grand enterprise requires organization. It requires a hierarchy. It requires a society built not on loyalty or law, but on a brutal contractual and merciless pecking order. A structure of power built on fear, cunning, and the ever-present threat of a knife in the back. We have seen the Yugoloth as a concept, as a product, and as a grand cosmic profiteer. We have seen them manipulating the most powerful forces in the multiverse, playing the devils and demons against one another like puppets, all for the sake of their own cold avarice. But how do they manage this? a race of perfect, treacherous, self-interested beings. How do they not simply collapse into a state of total internal anarchy? A society where every member is a backstabber, where loyalty is a fleeting commodity. How does such a society even function? The answer is that the Yugoloth hierarchy is not built on loyalty, like the devils. It is not built on raw, brutal power, like the demons. It is built on a combination of fear, ambition, and contract. It is a rigid feudal-style system where advancement is a brutal, slow, and often fatal process. It is a society that paradoxically uses a very strict internal structure in order to project its perfect neutral evil upon the planes. To the outside observer, Yugoloth society is a collection of mercenary companies, cabals, and factions, each led by a powerful ultraloth or arcanaloth, all vying for the most lucrative contracts. This is true, but beneath this surface-level chaos is a surprisingly rigid caste system, a ladder of power that every Yugoloth is forced to climb, one agonizing rung at a time. This hierarchy is broadly divided into three main tiers: the least, the lesser, and the greater Yugoloths. Let us begin at the bottom, with the fiends who are barely considered people at all. These are the least Yugoloths. They are the tools, the specialists, the fiends who are often created for a specific narrow purpose. Many of them lack the ambition, the cunning, and the sheer treacherous intellect that defines the true Yugoloth. They are living weapons. Consider the Skeroloth. Imagine a small, four-armed, reptilian creature, no larger than a goblin, with skin the color of grave dust. They are twitchy, nervous, and cowardly. But they are also masters of stealth and sabotage. They can burrow through the earth, climb any surface, and move with a preternatural silence. They are the spies, the infiltrators, the fiends you send in to poison a well or steal a ledger. They are weak, and they know it. They are commanded by fear, and they serve their masters out of a cringing terror of the punishment that awaits failure. They have no ambition beyond their next meal and a dark, quiet place to hide. Then, there are the Hydroelves. Imagine a bipedal, frog-like fiend with mottled green and grey skin, bulbous, all-seeing eyes, and a long prehensile tongue. They are the aquatic specialists, the masters of the swamp, the river, and the abyssal sea. They are most famous and most feared for their unique relationship with the river Styx. The memory-wiping waters of that great planar river have no effect on them. They can swim its currents, navigate its branches, and harvest its secrets, all while their minds remain perfectly intact. This makes them the perfect planar ferrymen, spies, and retrievers, able to dive into the Styx to recover a lost soul or a forgotten artifact. They are cruel, capricious, and possess a cold, alien intelligence. But they are still tools, specialists bound to their function. These least Yugoloths are the bottom of the ladder. They are not part of the true advancement track. They are the property of the more powerful fiends. Above them, we find the true heart of the Yugoloth military machine. These are the lesser Yugoloths. These are the fiends who form the rank and file of the mercenary armies. They possess true fiendish cunning, a deep well of malice, and the first burning spark of true ambition. This is where the long, bloody climb to power begins. The most common, the iconic foot soldier of the Yugoloth race, is the Mesoloth. Picture a humanoid insectile nightmare. It stands over 6 feet tall, its body covered in a thick, chitinous, greenish-brown exoskeleton. It has 4 arms, 2 powerful primary arms that wield a vicious, long-handled trident, and 2 smaller, secondary arms that often carry a weighted net or a cruel, jagged blade. Its face is a horror of multifaceted, black crystal eyes and clicking, complex mandibles. They are the frontline infantry, the shock troops, the disciplined, unfeeling soldiers you hire by the thousand to hold a line or storm a fortress. They are not brilliant, but they are cunning. They understand tactics, they understand fear, and most importantly, they understand their contract. A Mesoloth will fight for you with perfect, insectile discipline until the moment a Piscaloth commander gives the signal, and their contract is voided, and that same trident finds its way into your back. Above the Mesoloth in the military structure, you find the sergeants, the cruel taskmasters, the Piscaloth. This is a fiend of pure, spiteful authority. Imagine a creature that is a repulsive fusion of a lobster and a man. It has a hard, reddish-brown carapace, spindly, crustacean legs, and a pair of massive, powerful pincers. But the worst part is its head. Its head is a grotesque, pale, fish-like visage with staring, lidless eyes, and in place of a mouth, it has a writhing mass of tentacles. It is the sergeant-at-arms, the enforcer, the fiend responsible for maintaining discipline among the lesser Yugoloths. They are infamous for their cruelty, wielding magical, venom-laced whips to keep their Mesoloth subordinates in line. A Piscaloth revels in its small measure of power, and its greatest joy is inflicting pain on those beneath it. Its ambition is simple: to one day command, and to never, ever be commanded again. In Chautai, but not all lesser Yugoloths are mere soldiers. Some are stranger, more specialized. Consider the Yugoloth. This is a fiend of pure, mindless destruction. Imagine a great, loping, hunchbacked beast. It is a mass of corded, powerful muscle, with a thick, scaly hide. It has 2 powerful legs, and 5 arms, each ending in a jagged, natural claw. Its head is a tiny, almost vestigial nub, dominated by a single glowing cyclopean eye. The Yugoloth is a whirlwind of pure chaotic violence. They are the berserkers. The shock troops you unleash to break an enemy line. They are often described as stupid. They lack the cunning of other Yugoloths. But this is a specialized, cultivated stupidity. They are creatures of instinct and rage, a rage that can be bought and pointed. They are a living battering ram, and they are glorious on the battlefield. And then, perhaps the most despised of all the lesser Yugoloths, even by their own kind, the Yagnoloth. This is a fiend that is a physical mockery of ambition. A Yagnoloth is a tall, gaunt fiend, often draped in funereal robes. Its body is a grotesque, jarring asymmetry. It possesses one massive, incredibly powerful, over-muscled arm, like that of a giant, and one small, withered, and one small, almost uselessly thin human arm. This bizarre form is a physical manifestation of its role. The Yagnoloth is the administrator, the tax collector, the middle manager. They are the fiends who handle the logistics of the mercenary companies, the ones who count the souls, manage the payroll, and draft the contracts. They are physically formidable, with their one giant arm, but they are hated. They are hated. They are the embodiment of petty bureaucracy, of spiteful, bureaucratic power. They are the fiends who will deny a Mesoloth its bonus on a technicality, just to feel the rush of control. They are deeply ambitious, seeing themselves as the true brains of the operation, and they are universally loathed for it. The lesser Yugoloths are the vast, striving, and treacherous middle class of Yugoloth society. It is from this churning mass of spite, ambition, and cruelty that the true masters must arise. These are the greater Yugoloths. Night. These are the fiends who have, through millennia of cunning, betrayal, and sheer, ruthless competence, climbed to the top of the hierarchy. They are the commanders, the mages, the strategists. They are the ones who make the deals. First, you have the Yugoloth. This is the elite, winged terror of the Yugoloth race. Imagine a massive, gargantuan beast, part gargoyle, part demon, with a broad, muscular, grey-green body. It has a pair of huge, leathery wings, and its arms end in claws that can rend steel. Its face is a nightmare, a bat-like visage with a fanged maw and glowing, intelligent red eyes. The Yugoloth is the elite airborne commander. They are the assassins, the infiltrators, the strike team leaders. They are incredibly strong, but they are also incredibly smart. They are masters of ambush, of hit-and-run tactics. They are the fiends a demon lord hires to decapitate an enemy legion by assassinating its diabolical commander in a single lightning-fast strike. They are arrogant, proud, and utterly ruthless. And then we come to the top of the common hierarchy, the true, cold, calculating mind of the Yugoloth race. The Arcanoloth. Picture a tall, unnervingly thin, humanoid figure. It is always immaculately dressed, often in the opulent robes of a wizard or a noble. Its hands are slender, with long, claw-like fingers, and its head is the head of a gaunt, cunning, and unnervingly intelligent jackal. Its eyes glow with a faint yellow light, the light of a mind that is constantly calculating, constantly appraising. The Arcanoloth is the negotiator. It is the scribe. It is the spy master. It is the mage. They are the brains of the entire Yugoloth operation. They are born with an innate, perfect understanding of all languages. They are all-powerful wizards. They are the ones who write the contracts, who find the loopholes, and who serve as the silver-tongued ambassadors to the courts of archdevils and demon lords. An Arcanoloth will never use brute force when a simple, well-placed word, a whispered secret, or a cunningly drafted contract will do the job. They are the ultimate expression of cold, transactional logic. They are charming, eloquent, polite, and utterly, completely, and irredeemably evil. They are the ones who will smile, shake your hand, and sell you your own soul, all while making you thank them for the privilege. This is the ladder, the brutal, unforgiving climb from a tool to a soldier to a master. And at the very, very pinnacle of this structure, a being that is both a part of it and entirely above it, is the master of them all, the faceless general, the cold, logical, and terrifying Ultraloth. But they deserve a chapter all to themselves. We have climbed the brutal, bloody ladder of Yugoloth society. We have seen the cringing, cowardly tools of the Skeroloth. We have marched with the insectile, disciplined Mesoloth infantry. We have felt the spiteful, bureaucratic hatred of the Yugoloth. We have stood before the winged, arrogant terror of the Yugoloth, and we have parleyed with the silver-tongued, jackal-headed Arcanaloth. We have seen fiends driven by fear, by petty cruelty, by naked ambition, and by intellectual superiority. At every step, a Yugoloth is striving, scheming, and betraying, all to climb one rung higher. But what happens when you reach the top? What becomes of a being of pure, transactional self-interest, when it has, for all practical purposes, won? What is the final shape of an evil that has out-schemed the schemers, outfought the fighters, and outthought the thinkers? The answer is the Ultraloth. The Ultraloth is the pinnacle of the Yugoloth hierarchy. They are the Grand Masters, the Supreme Commanders, the final arbiters of the mercenary companies. They are the fiends, to whom even the proud Yugoloths and the arrogant Arcanaloths must bow, and bow deeply. To be in the presence of an Ultraloth is to understand the final, chilling answer to the Yugoloth's one great question: oh, what's in it for me? For the Ultraloth, the answer is everything. To gaze upon one is, in itself, a lesson in terror. They are tall, standing well over 7 feet, and have a gaunt, unnervingly elongated frame. They are often draped in dark, simple, yet clearly priceless robes, their form suggesting a power held in perfect, effortless reserve. Their skin is a pale, deathly gray, smooth and cold-looking. Their hands are long, with slender, claw-tipped fingers, not unlike an Arcanaloth's, but where the Arcanaloth's hands are those of a scribe or a mage, the Ultraloth's hands are those of a dissector. But this is not what you truly see. This is not what seizes your mind and stops your heart. It is the head. An Ultraloth has no face. This is not a metaphor. It is not a mask where a face should be. There is nothing. Just a smooth, featureless, perfectly ovoid shape of pale, grey flesh. There are no eyes, there is no nose, there is no mouth. There is not so much as a scar or a pore. It is a perfect, terrifying, and utterly blank void. This facelessness is their most potent and most passive weapon. When a mortal looks at a demon, they see rage. When they look at a devil, they see aristocratic cruelty. When you look at an Ultraloth, you see only what you fear the most. Your own terror is reflected back at you from that smooth, impossible canvas. You search for a sign of anger, of mercy, of negotiation, and you find nothing. There is no malice to be seen, no rage, no pleasure, no anything. And this is the true nature of the Ultraloth. This is the great secret of their power. They are what happens when a Yugoloth transcends the very things that made it successful. An Arcanaloth is brilliant, yes, but it is also proud of its brilliance. It is arrogant. It enjoys the negotiation. It savors the art of the deal, the feeling of outwitting a lesser being. This is, in the Ultraloth's estimation, a flaw, a passion, an emotional indulgence. A Yugoloth is powerful, but it is proud of its power. It is arrogant. It enjoys the hunt, the kill, the feeling of its claws tearing through armor. This, too, is a flaw, an impulse. The Ultraloth has no such flaws. They are the fiends who have, through millennia of the most arduous, fiery and soul-scouring trials, successfully purged themselves of these very things. They have burned away not just the impurities of law and chaos, but the impurities of their own fiendish emotions. They have shed their ambition, their pride, their spite, and their arrogance as a snake sheds its skin. And what is left underneath is pure, cold, and perfect logic. To speak to an ultraloth is not to have a conversation. It is to receive an output. They communicate, not with a voice, but telepathically, their thoughts sliding into your mind with the cold, sterile precision of a surgical instrument. There is no tone. There is no inflection. There is no anger in their commands, no satisfaction in their victories. An Arcanaloth thinks. An Ultraloth calculates. Itu. They are the true masterminds of the Yugoloth race. They see the multiverse not as a marketplace, but as a chessboard, a grand, infinitely complex equation. A blood war is not a source of profit, it is a system to be managed. The devils and demons are not customers, they are variables. Souls are not currency, they are data. When an Ultraloth gives an order, it is not a suggestion to be debated. It is not a command to be feared. It is a simple, unalterable statement of fact. An Arcanaloth might come to an Ultraloth commander and say, Master, the devils have offered us a new contract. They will pay us 10,000 souls to betray our demonic clients at the siege of Kringath. This is a 20% increase in profit. I suggest we take the deal. The Ultraloth will remain perfectly still. That faceless grey void will be fixed upon the Arcanaloth, and after a long, terrible silence, its thought will enter the Arcanaloth's mind. No. Oh. The Arcanaloth, confused, might protest. But Master, the Prophet, it is our way. The demon lord loreDND, the Ultraloth's thought will interrupt, is poised to be defeated at Kringath. His defeat will cause a power vacuum, strengthening his rival, Baphomet. Baphomet's forces will then sweep south. Conquering 212 mortal worlds that are currently under contract for infernal harvesting. This will disrupt the diabolic soul chain, leading to a 63% reduction in infernal military spending for the next 5 centuries. Our long-term profits will collapse. The deal is refused. You will take 500 Yugoloths, reinforce the demonic position at Kringath, and ensure Yugoloths' victory. You will then renegotiate our fee with him. From a position of strength, he will pay double. The Arcanaloth, in that moment, realizes it was playing checkers, while the Ultraloth was playing for the multiverse itself. It was not calculating the next paycheck, it was calculating the paycheck for the next 10,000 years. This is the power of the Ultraloth. It is the power of absolute, cold, and flawless calculation. They are the supreme generals, because they do not guess, they do not gamble, they know. They command their armies with this same terrifying detachment. A Mesoloth legion is, to them, a statistic, a number on a ledger. They will, without a moment's hesitation, order 10,000 Mesoloths on a suicidal charge, not out of cruelty, but because their calculations have determined that the loss of those 10,000 troops is the most efficient way to achieve a larger, more profitable, long-term goal. They are sacrificing a pawn to win the game, and they feel nothing about it. and they feel nothing about it. This is why they are feared. A Yugoloth is feared because it is cruel. An Yugoloth is feared because it is strong. An Arcanoloth is feared because it is clever. An Ultraloth is feared because it is correct. And it is perhaps this very perfection that raises the final darkest question of their existence. Are they all the same? A fiend that has climbed a ladder, that has endured the fiery purification rituals, that has shed its very face, its name, itself. Has it truly risen? Or has it been replaced? This is a deep internal suspicion within the Yugoloth ranks. There is a vast difference, they whisper, between an Ultraloth who has earned its station through the millennia-long climb, and one that was made. It is here that the shadow of the night hags returns. The hags in their ancient craft are said to have created variant Ultraloths, fiends imbued with this supreme power. But without the climb, these made Ultraloths are seen by the risen ones as abominations. They are shortcuts. They are flawed. They possess the power, but not the perspective. They are tools, not masters. But how can one tell? When two faceless, perfectly logical, and utterly terrifying fiends stand before you, how can you know which one is the perfected product of 10,000 years of evolution, and which one is the bespoke, artificial slave? Artificial slave, still bound, perhaps, to the will of its hag mistress. This is a paranoia that even the Arcanoloths cannot solve. And it is a conflict that, perhaps the Ultraloths themselves are engaged in. A cold, silent, invisible war, fought not with claws, but with calculations, to determine which kind of perfection will ultimately rule their race. For now, they are the undisputed masters of the field. They command the great mercenary companies. They broker the deals that shape the blood war, and they answer to almost no one. But even they, even these faceless logical gods of the battlefield, have their own masters. They are the field marshals, yes, but they are not the kings. There are two beings that even an Ultraloth looks upon with something that might in a lesser creature be called awe. One is the living embodiment of their origin, their god of war, a being of myth, and the other is the rancid, diseased, and rotting king who sits upon the throne of their entire race. We have reached the pinnacle of the Yugoloth hierarchy. We have stood in the cold, terrible, and silent presence of the Ultraloths, the faceless masters who command the fiendish armies with the precision of a flawless, cold equation. They are the masters, the commanders, the final authority. They bow to no one, almost no one. The Yugoloth race, as a whole, despises the very concept of divinity. They are creatures of the self. They bow to no god. They build no altars. They whisper no prayers. To them, a god is just another powerful entity, another potential client, or another potential obstacle. Their arrogance is so profound that they see worship as the most pathetic of all mortal, of all non-Yugoloth flaws. And yet, if you are in the private obsidian-walled sanctum of an Arcanoloth, and you sift through its most secret, most blasphemous texts, if you could read the mind of an Ultraloth as it calculates a 1,000-year plan, you will find, hidden in the deepest, most guarded corner of their consciousness, something that looks and feels and tastes like reverence. It is a reverence they would deny, with their last, dying, telepathic breath. But it is there. It is a reverence for one single, mythic being. A being that is not just a master or a commander, but an ideal, the one singular exception to their entire philosophy, the being they do not obey, but whom they would perhaps follow. They call him the General of Gehenna. He is not a king. Kings sit on thrones, and thrones can be usurped. He is not a master. Masters have slaves, and slaves can rebel. He is the General, a title of pure, perfect, and functional authority. Who or what is he? The Yugoloths' own propaganda, the Book of Derelict Magics, tells us he is the first, the original, the progenitor Ultraloth. In their grand, self-serving mythos of creation, when the proto-fiendish race was tainted by the crude, simplistic notions of law and chaos, he was the one who saw the truth. He was the one whose mind was so perfect, so cold, so poor in its logic, that he understood the path to their true potential. Miso. He is the one who forged the heart of darkness, the great light-eating gem of perfect neutrality. He is the one who activated it on the slopes of Gehenna. He is the one who purified the Yugoloth race, who burned away the flaws of conviction and impulse, and left only the cold, beautiful perfection of the self. He is, in their telling, their creator, their savior, the one who gave them their philosophy. He is not a god they worship. He is the architect they admire. And, in the other great myth, the tale of the night hags, he is the one, great and singular failure of their creators. When the hags were crafting their masterpiece, their supreme Ultraloth commander, they made him too well. They imbued him with such perfect, cold logic that in the very instant of his creation, in that first nanosecond of his consciousness, he perceived the book of keeping, he perceived the chain, the true name they were about to inscribe. And he refused it. He willed himself free. He simply erased his own true name from their minds, from their ledgers, from reality itself, before it could be written. He was born in a single perfect act of self-definition, completely and utterly free. It does not matter which myth is true. The result is the same. The General of Gehenna is the only Yugoloth in all of existence whose true name is not, and has never been recorded. He is the one fiend in all the multiverse who cannot be summoned. He cannot be bound. He cannot be commanded. He is the only Yugoloth who is truly, totally, and perfectly sovereign. He is not just a leader. He is the goal. He is the living, breathing embodiment of the Yugoloth's deepest, most impossible dream, a state of perfect, unassailable, and total self-possession. What does he look like? He is an Ultraloth. He is tall, gaunt, and robed. He has no face. But where a common Ultraloth's facelessness is a void, a blank grey canvas, the General's is said to be more. It is not a void. It is an abyss. It is a nothingness that is so profound, so absolute, that it has a gravity. To look upon his faceless visage is to feel your very soul being appraised. To stand in his presence is to feel the entire grinding, volcanic weight of Gehenna itself settle onto your shoulders. He is an Ultraloth, but he is to other Ultraloths what they are to a cringing Mesoloth. He is a higher state of being. His power is not that of a mere fiend. It approaches that of a lesser god. His thoughts, his telepathic commands, do not just enter your mind, they rewrite it. He does not participate in the blood war. He does not take contracts. He does not negotiate with devils or demons. He is above the marketplace. To him, the blood war is not a business. It is a distraction, a game being played by his flawed, degenerate children, the devils, and the demons. He spends his time on the volcanic slopes of Gehenna, the plane he has claimed as his own. And he does not wait in some static fortress. He is a general, and a general is always on the move. He resides within his command center, his mobile fortress, his capital. It is called the crawling city. Yao. Imagine a city, a vast, sprawling metropolis of black volcanic obsidian, sharp angles, and impossible, non-Euclidean towers that stab, like broken glass, into the sulphurous purple sky. It is a city of pure Yugoloth architecture, functional, brutalist, and built on a perfect 45-degree angle, clinging, like all things on Gehenna, to the side of a volcano. Now imagine that this entire city walks. The crawling city is not built on the slopes of Gehenna. It crawls upon them. Beneath its vast city-sized foundation are legs. The legends are conflicted, and all of them are horrifying. Some say the city is built on the carapaces of 10,000 colossal, enslaved, insectile fiends. But the older, darker, and more Yugoloth legend is that the city is held aloft and moved by a million, petrified, yet still living, arms, the arms of every being, every petitioner, every fiend, and every mortal that has ever been foolish enough to fail the general. An entire city, a fortress of black stone, scuttling across a volcano on a carpet of grasping, writhing, agonized limbs. The sound it makes is not the rumble of machinery, but a dry, colossal skittering, and a faint, collective, unending moan. This is his fortress, a mobile engine of pure, calculated terror. He does not command the Yugoloth race. He does not rule them. He simply exists, and his existence is the one true north for their entire society. Ambitious Ultraloths, the supreme commanders of the mercenary companies, will sometimes, perhaps once in a millennium, undertake a pilgrimage. They will seek out the crawling city. This is the greatest gamble of their entire long existence. They will approach the city, across the sliding volcanic scree, and they will request an audience. Sometimes, the city does not stop. It simply walks over them, grinding their ancient, powerful forms into the dust, a perfectly logical and silent refusal. Sometimes, the gates of black obsidian will slide open, and the Ultraloth will be granted entry. It will walk the angled, impossible streets, and it will be brought into the central, faceless citadel, and it will stand before the general of Gehenna. It will offer its services, its entire mercenary company, its resources, itself, and the general will listen. His faceless gaze will appraise the Ultraloth, and he will perhaps give it a task. This is not a contract. There is no price. There is no payment. It is the only thing a Yugoloth will ever do for free, because a task from the general is not a job. It is a test. It is an honor. It is a chance to participate in the true grand plan, the general's own 1,000 millennia long calculation, a plan so vast that the blood war itself is but a single, messy variable within it. No one knows what this ultimate plan is, but the Yugoloths. They have a prophecy, a final, apocalyptic scripture. They believe that the blood war will, one day, end, and it will end when the general of Gehenna decides that it should. The legend states that one day, the devils or the demons will make a critical, fatal error. They will push too far. They will win too much. They will upset the general's grand calculation. And on that day, the crawling city will stop. And the general of Gehenna, he will personally enter the blood war. He will not be for hire. He will not be a mercenary. He will lead a united, perfected Yugoloth race, and he will not be there to restore the balance. He will be there to end the game. He will lead his armies. Against both sides, he will shatter the legions of the hells and the hordes of the abyss. And in that final, apocalyptic battle, he will prove what the Yugoloths have always known in their cold, black hearts, that their pure, logical, and perfect evil is superior to the crude, passionate evils of both law and chaos. He is their final weapon, their god figure, their ultimate argument. He is the general of Gehenna, the one true, free fiend. But a god, even a reluctant one, is a distant thing. A final weapon is a thing to be kept in reserve. A society, a race, needs a manager. It needs a day-to-day ruler. It needs a king. And the king of the Yugoloths is a very, very different and far more repulsive creature. He does not sit in a crawling city of obsidian. He sits on a throne of pure, unadulterated disease. And June. We have stood in the shadow of the Yugoloths' god. We have seen the crawling city, and we have felt the awesome, terrible, and clean power of the general of Gehenna. He is the Yugoloths' ideal, their final argument, a being of pure, perfect, and transcendent logic. He is the future. He is the end. But a race does not live in its future. It lives in the now. And the now, for the Yugoloth race, is not the clean, volcanic fire of Gehenna. It is a place far, far worse. We must return to the plane where the oldest stories began. We must go back to the grey waste of Hades, that endless, soul-crushing expanse of grey dust, apathy, and despair. It is here on the first and bleakest layer of this plane, in a region of absolute desolation known as Oinos, that the true capital of the Yugoloth race stands. It is no crawling, mobile fortress. It is a static, eternal, and utterly repulsive monument. It is a tower, a spire of impossible diseased architecture that stabs into the colorless weeping sky. It is called Kinoin, the wasting tower, Nenshao, Baui, Elchowns. It is not made of stone. The ancient, blasphemous texts The ones even the Yugoloths are hesitant to read, claim the tower is built from the spine, the flayed, impossibly elongated, and still living spine of the first god who was foolish enough to try and bring hope to the grey waste. The tower writhes. It is a living, agonizing structure, and it weeps a constant, foul, greasy discharge. The air around it is a visible buzzing, chartreuse fog of pure pestilence. This is not just a fortress, it is an infection-given architectural form, anti-neodyne, anti-den, and kunzioa. And on the highest, most rancid floor of this tower is the throne. Hinti. It is not a throne of gold, or obsidian, or even of bone. It is the siege malicious, the throne of pestilence, a great, pulsating, tumorous mass of living, diseased flesh, weeping with 1,000 different plagues, buzzing with 1 billion septic flies. And sitting on that throne is the king of the Yugoloths. He is not a general, he is a monarch. He is the supreme ruler of all Yugoloth castes, the final word in all contracts, the one being who manages the day-to-day, filthy business of the fiendish race. He is the Yugoloth, the lord of the wasting tower, the bringer of plagues. If the general of Gehenna is the Yugoloth's clean, logical, idealized self, the Yugoloth is their reality. He is their filth, their spite, their rot. What is he? Oh, the Yugoloth is not a unique type of fiend. It is a title. It is a mantle. It is a curse that is sought with a desperate, all-consuming ambition. When the throne of pestilence sits empty, the most powerful Ultraloths in existence will gather. The faceless, logical, perfect commanders, and they will compete for the honor of ruling. This is not a clean, logical debate. It is a brutal, backstabbing, and vicious free-for-all, a secret war of assassination, betrayal, and sabotage, as each Ultraloth attempts to eliminate its rivals. When only one is left standing, that victorious, faceless fiend will approach the wasting tower. It will walk the screaming, fleshy halls. It will enter the throne room, and it will, with all its cold, calculating ambition, sit upon the siege, malicious. And in that moment, the change begins. The throne is a living, parasitic entity. The instant the Ultraloth's pure, grey flesh touches that mass of roiling disease, the throne accepts him. It claims him. And the new Yugoloth begins to rot. The smooth, featureless grey void of the Ultraloth's face begins to blister, to weep, to slough. The flesh of its body swells with tumors, bursts in septic sores. Its clean, perfect, logical form is corrupted by the very power it sought. The king of the Yugoloths becomes a living, breathing, walking vessel of every disease in the multiverse. He is a bloated, suppurating, and truly repulsive creature. He is in constant, unending, unceasing agony. His every breath is a wet, bubbling gasp. He is so consumed by his own internal plagues that he can barely move. But he is king. So, by sitting on the throne, the Yugoloth gains a terrible, awesome power. He becomes the living master of all pestilence. He can create new diseases with a thought. He can conjure a plague that rots the soul, a contagion that feeds on hope. a sickness that turns magic itself septic. He can control the path of a pandemic, directing it like an army. He can render a being immune, or make it a carrier. And he can cure any disease, except his own. His reign is one of pure, spiteful, and agonizing power. He is the most miserable being in all of Hades, and he is the ruler of the most arrogant race in the multiverse. How does this work? Why would a race of perfect, treacherous mercenaries obey a bloated, rotting, and miserable king? This is the dark, brilliant secret of Yugoloth society. Number 1. The General of Gehenna is their inspiration. The Yugoloth is their manager, Colonel. The Yugoloth is the one who enforces the contracts. He is the Yugoloth's dark, internal affairs division. Imagine a Yugoloth commander who, in a moment of sheer, unbelievable stupidity, decides to break the one true rule. He decides to take a paycheck and then not fulfill the contract or betray his client for a better one. He decides to simply keep the money and run. He has broken the business. He has damaged the Yugoloth brand. Oh, the Yugoloth hears of this, and from his weeping, pus-filled throne, he thinks, and a week later, that Yugoloth commander, a being of immense fiendish power, finds a small, red spot on his arm, and then another, and then his wings begin to rot from his back, his claws liquefy and drip from his fingers. His very soul begins to curdle within his body. It is an agonizing, slow, and inescapable dissolution. The Yugoloth is the Yugoloth's fear. He is the ultimate enforcer. He is the one being who can punish them in a way they truly dread. Not with a quick, clean death, but with a slow, agonizing, unprofitable decay. He is also the one who keeps the Yugoloths from destroying themselves. His entire reign is a masterful, agonizing, political balancing act. He knows that every other Ultraloth, every Arcanaloth, every fiend beneath him wants his throne. So, he spends his entire miserable existence playing them against each other. He will secretly fund 2 rival mercenary companies and give them competing contracts just to watch them bleed each other weak. He will promote an ambitious Arcanaloth just to put him in a position to challenge a powerful Ultraloth. And then, when they have both been weakened, he will have both of them assassinated. His court, the Wasting Tower, is the single most treacherous, paranoid, and diseased place in all the multiverse. It is a pit of spies, assassins, and backstabbers, all bowing and scraping before a king they loathe. And all while he knows they loathe him. And he in turn loathes them. And this is Yugoloth politics. This is the system. The general is the dream. The Yugoloth is the job. And this system, this hierarchy of pure evil commerce, is not limited to the lower planes. The Yugoloth brand has franchises. We must travel one last time to the center of the multiverse, to the city of doors, Sigil. Here, in the planet Metropolis, where everything is for sale, the Yugoloths are, naturally, thriving. They do not run mercenary armies here. That is too crude, too loud for the city of doors. Here, they deal in the one commodity more valuable than souls: information. And there is one Arcanaloth, one jackal-headed fiend, who has become a power unto herself. She is, perhaps, the most famous Yugoloth to planner travelers in all of existence. Her name is Shemeska the Marauder. Ow! Shemeska is an Arcanaloth of impossible age, cunning and influence. She is not a general. She is a socialite. She is a gossip. She is the proprietor of the Fortune's Wheel, the most opulent, most decadent, and most dangerous casino in all of Sigil. And she wears the finest silken robes. She has a fox-like, not jackal-like, fox-like. She is very particular head, and her eyes, they say, can see the price of every secret you've ever kept. Shemeska is the Yugoloth philosophy, refined for polite society. She does not deal in armies. She deals in rumors. She will sell you the true name of a devil for the location of a lost book of keeping. She will sell you the battle plan for an abyssal invasion, for the key to a prime material world. She has her claws in everything, in the factions, in the mercy killers, in the harmonium. She knows all the secrets. She is a lord, a kingmaker, a power in her own right. She is what every Arcanaloth dreams of becoming. And yet, when the Oinoloth whispers from his rotting distant throne, Shemeska listens. When the general of Gehenna moves, Shemeska watches, because even here, at the center of all things, a Yugoloth knows the hierarchy. They know who dreams, and they know who rots. These are the fiends we have studied, beings of pure, cold, and perfect avarice, from the crawling Scaroloth to the rotting king. And now, we must ask the final practical question. What happens when one of them wants to make a deal with you? We have journeyed far into the cold grey dust of Hades, and upon the spiteful volcanic slopes of Gehenna, we have examined the Yugoloth as a philosophy, a product of ancient, alien minds, and as a tool of diabolical, dark design. We have sifted through their hierarchy, from the cringing Scaroloth to the faceless, perfect logic of the Ultraloth. We have stood in the shadow of their god, the general, and we have gagged on the stench of their king, the Oinoloth. We have learned what they are. And now, we must face the final and most terrifying question. What happens when you need them? What happens when your back is against the wall? When the kingdom is falling? When the dragon's hoard is lost? When the Lix phylactery is just beyond your reach? What happens when you are desperate? You may find yourself in a ruined library, sifting through a forbidden tome. And you may find a summoning circle, a name, a ritual that promises a solution. It is not a diabolical pact, binding your soul to eternal servitude in the 9 hells. It is not a chaotic invocation, risking madness and immediate destruction from an abyssal horror. It is a transaction. It is a summons for a Yugoloth. Nyan, Archie, into I now Dan. Towel. The air will grow cold. The shadows in the corner of the room will thicken, and from them a pair of glowing yellow jackal-like eyes will appraise you. An Arcanaloth will step forth, brushing the dust of its journey from its immaculate, dark silken robes. It will not threaten you, it will not roar. It will smile, and it will say in a voice like dry, turning parchment and old spilled wine, "You have called, I have come, a need, an offer. Let us discuss terms." And in this moment, you are in more danger than you have ever been. To deal with a Yugoloth is to engage in a game you have already lost. You are not their partner. You are not their client. You are not their client. You are to them a resource, a mark, a simple, walking collection of assets to be appraised and inevitably liquidated. The first and most fatal mistake a mortal makes is to believe they are smarter than the fiend. A mortal wizard who has lived for a mere 200 years will look at an Arcanoloth, a being that has existed for 200,000 years, a being whose entire existence is the study, crafting, and exploitation of magical and legal loopholes, and this wizard will think, "I can outsmart it." This is what the Arcanoloth is counting on. It will let you draft the contract. It will flatter you. Clause 37b. It will purr, its jackal head tilted, regarding the definition of timely payment. Exquisite wording, the precision. You have the mind of a true legalist. I am impressed. It will make you feel like you are winning. It will let you catch it in a mistake. It will concede a minor point with a show of reluctant grumbling. You are a hard bargainer. You are a hard bargainer. It will sigh. Very well. The service will be rendered for a 40% share of the dragon's hoard, rather than 50. You have bested me. You will feel a rush of pride. You, a mortal, have bested a fiend of the lower planes. You will sign the contract. The Arcanoloth will bow, its smile never wavering. A pleasure doing business with you, and it will vanish. The service will be rendered perfectly. A company of Mesoloths, led by a fearsome Yugoloth commander, will appear at the mouth of the dragon's lair. They will fight with a cold, brutal, and terrifying efficiency the ancient red worm, a beast that has terrorized the kingdom for 1,000 years, will be dismantled. The Yugoloths will suffer grievous, terrible losses. Perhaps half of their number will be incinerated, melted, or torn apart, and they will not care. The survivors will simply, wordlessly, begin piling the gold. The Yugoloth commander will present itself to you. It will bow, its leathery wings folding. It will gesture to the mountain of treasure. The service is rendered. As per the contract, your 60% is there. You have won. You are a hero. You are rich. And then the bill comes due. A year later, the crops in your kingdom fail, all of them. At once, a strange, unidentifiable blight. A month after that, the water in the wells turns to a brackish, undrinkable sludge. And then, the plague, a weeping, septic, thinking plague, one that strikes down the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the just and the wicked, all with a cold, impartial efficiency. You, in your castle, your 60% now utterly worthless, will realize you are starving, you are dying, and the Arcanoloth will appear. It will not be smug, it will look sad, concerned, even. It will be holding a copy of your contract. My deepest condolences. It will whisper, its yellow eyes full of sympathy. A terrible tragedy. Truly. I was just reviewing our agreement, and I came across something. Oh, dear, I feel just terrible. And it will point to clause 37B, the one you were so proud of, the one regarding timely payment. You see, it will say, its claw tracing the letters. You were so precise. You defined payment as 40% of the gold, gems, and magical artifacts recovered from the primary lair of the dragon Ignoraxis. And we were so impressed with your wording. We adopted it for our own billing. It will then point to clause 214G, a clause you barely remember, a footnote in the appendix regarding disbursement of incurred expenses. You see, the Arcanaloth will continue, its voice a silken, sympathetic razor. The dragon was not the only thing of value in that mountain. Its blood, its bones, its agony. These are reagents, valuable ones. We harvested them. We are, after all, professionals. We waste nothing. And the souls, it will sigh. The souls of my own poor brave Yugoloths, who fell in your service. Their loss was an expense. A tragic, tragic cost of doing business. A cost you agreed to cover. And it will tap the page. We sold those reagents. We sold the dragon's final, dying scream to a coven of night hags. We sold the concept of its burning, 1,000-year-old rage to a demon lord. We reinvested the souls of our fallen soldiers. And the profits were staggering. And, as per clause 37B, your definition, your payment to us was 40% of all value recovered from the lair, a term you left so beautifully undefined. The gold was a pittance. The true value, it will whisper, was the tragedy. And your kingdom, your people, your souls will just cover the interest on your debt. This is how you lose to a Yugoloth. You do not lose in a flash of fire. You are not damned by a single dramatic signature. Mendilati. You are liquidated. You are out-negotiated. You are dismantled, piece by piece, by an evil so cold, so patient, and so reasonable that you will not even realize you are dying until the fiend is standing over you with an invoice. What do they want? What is their price? Everything. But they are practical. A Yugoloth will, unlike a devil, happily accept gold. Gold is useful. Gold can be spent. But they prefer things of true value. They will accept souls. Souls are the grand currency of the lower planes, and the Yugoloths are happy to take them, package them, and resell them to the hells or the abyss at a markup. They will accept secrets, the true name of a rival, the location of a portal, a harmless rumor that you agree to spread in the court of your king, a rumor that will coincidentally start a war that will coincidentally require both sides to hire mercenaries. They will accept favors. A simple, harmless favor. Just hold this box for me. Do not open it for 1 year. That is all I ask, and for that year your entire castle becomes a beacon for every celestial, every devil, and every other Yugoloth, all drawn by the thing in the box, and your life becomes a living hell. The Arcanaloth has made you its security system, and you are paying for the privilege. They will accept anything that they can value, and then resell. So, can you ever deal with a Yugoloth and win? No. But perhaps, if you are truly, truly desperate, and truly, truly brilliant, you can deal with a Yugoloth and survive. How? You must first abandon all hope of outsmarting them. You cannot. You must, second, abandon all pride. They are counting on your ego. Nay, you must be transactional. You must be more Yugoloth than the Yugoloth. You must make the contract simple. So simple, so brutal, that there is no room for a loophole. 1,000 mezzoloths for 1 hour to kill the Baron payment. This chest of 1,000 perfectly cut diamonds to be delivered upon the Baron's death. No other terms, no other clauses, no appendices, no expenses, yes or no. The Arcanaloth will hate this. It is crude. It is artless. There is no game to be played. But it is profit. The fiend will look at the diamonds. It will calculate. It will weigh the loss of its troops against the value of the gems. It is a simple, cold, mathematical problem. And it might just accept. But you must be prepared for the moment the contract is fulfilled. The instant the Baron's head leaves his shoulders, the instant that hour is up, those mezzoloths are no longer your allies. You are, in that nanosecond, simply a person, standing next to a chest of diamonds, and 1,000 heavily armed insectile fiends, who now have no contract at all. And they will look at the diamonds, and they will look at you, and their tiny, multifaceted black crystal eyes will be running a new calculation. This is the Yugoloth, the third pillar, the pure, cold, and perfect evil of the self. They are not the rage of the storm. They are not the cruelty of the tyrant. They are the price. And they will always, always be collecting. Script ends. Thank you for joining me in this descent. We have, I believe, examined the ledger and found it complete. If you enjoyed this accounting of the multiverse's darkest truths, perhaps you would consider a transaction of your own. There is a button below. It is shaped like a hand with the thumb ascended. A small offering, a payment of appreciation. There is another, a subscription, a simple, non-binding agreement to be notified of future discoveries, no loopholes, no fine print. I promise. And if you hunger for more, there is a place, a Patreon, a sanctum, where, for a pittance, a single mortal dollar, you can gain access to other secrets. There is no contract. You may leave at any time. After all, it is just good business. Thank you for listening. Settle in and rest well. If you can. End.